Welcome artists to our next principle of design, which is contrast. Now, contrast is a principle of design that shows difference between elements like value, shape, line, and color. So let's begin by talking about, excuse me, this work of art by John Bauer. He has shown a lot of different contrasts here in this work of art. For one, you can see the size of the little girl and the size of the bear. The bear's much bigger, the girl's just tiny. This creates contrast. So size is something we can use. Also, the girl's dress or nightgown, whatever it may be, her crown, her hair, her skin are all very bright. She almost has a halo around her, where the bear is, his face is lighter, but as he goes back, it's darker. So there's this light and darkness going on. Also creates contrast. If you look at the bear's fur in the background, different textures there, so that creates contrast. And there's also just the general, the bear and the girl are brighter than most of the background is more dull. There's more color in the bear and the girl. The background's more grays and browns. So lots of different things to show contrast there. Let's look at a couple more images here. This is actually from a video game I just pulled offline. But you can see this really great use of contrast throughout the whole image. If you just look at her face even, her hair has this black kind of purplish color to it, next to her skin, which is very light colored, the very pink blush on her cheeks next to her very light skin, her red lips next to her light skin, her orange, what's that stuff called? Eyeliner. No, that's not eyeliner. It's, I don't know what it is. Eyeshadow, that's it. Her orange eyeshadow and orange eyes next to her skin. All of those things create contrast. Her dark scarf, her dark clothes. But then you have the shadow in the background on the moon, what I believe is the moon. I'm not sure there, but you also have the contrast of her standing still here and running, her shadow's running. That creates contrast. The movement and stillness together, there's a contrast there. So then you have this painting by Theo van Rysselberghe, this girl in the black dress next to this blue and gold door. So obviously there's great contrast here between this black of the dress and this very light blue and gold. You clearly see these differences. Very powerful tool as artists. Probably my favorite principle of design. So how do we create contrast? Well, we can use color. Complementary colors especially are effective, like red and green, or purple and yellow, or blue and orange. We can also use lines, different weights of lines. So there's thin lines next to thick lines, straight lines next to curved lines. You can go on and on. Those things all create contrast. Different values, light and dark values next to each other. We just looked at a bunch of that, like in this figure, this woman. There's lots of light skin next to dark hair, dark scarf, dark eyes. All those things create contrast. Shapes, if you put geometric shapes, which are man-made shapes like circles, squares, trapezoids, next to more organic shapes like clouds and leaves and faces and whatever it may be, that creates contrast. And then you have texture, which is, if you have a smooth texture next to a rough texture, if you have, fur next to stone like we saw in the bear, those things all create contrast. So contrast is an absolute essential for us as artists to understand and be able to use. So we're gonna use that this week in our sketchbook by using the theme of big and small. Now, big size is another thing that we can use to create contrast. So yes, use those size differences to create contrast in your sketchbook artwork this week. But also use these other things that we talked about. Use line, different weights of line, different types of line, straight, curved, etc., etc. Use color, use shapes, whatever it may be. You don't have to use all of them, but it just like we talked about with emphasis, when you combine the ways to create emphasis, it creates even more emphasis. So if you combine these ways to create contrast, like using value and color, so if you have, like we saw in the girl, light skin, which does have color next to black, it's going to create even more contrast than if it's just black and white. So make use of those, explore those in your sketchbook, and I will look forward to seeing your big and small themed sketchbook at the end of the week. Have fun.